All right, kitties, say it with me. It's time to unroll the tadpole. It's time to unclog the frog. It's time to unload the toad. It's time to uninhibit the ribbit. It's time to unstick the lick. It's time to unimprison the amphibian. It's time to unmute the mute. It's time to unbench the kench. It's time to permit the kermit. It's time to defrog the pollywog. Kitties, in season 3, we are all becoming frog gamers. With the massive changes coming to minions in season 3, where they're now going to be significantly more aggressive, they're going to do a lot more damage, they're going to be a lot tankier, and they're going to have all their stupid pathfinding bugs completely fixed, with them completely reworking Beastmaster to become an actual brick wall that's going to be regenerating half of its health per second, and it's going to have basically 60% less damage taken. And with the new primal items and the new cores of Anorak helmet, we are going to have 10 frogs. They're all going to jump around, and they're going to do some of the most disgusting damage you'll ever see in the game, while actually giving a minion build really good clear. With this helmet, all of your companion slots are going to be turned into frogs, which are going to have some of the most disgusting scaling you'll ever see in any video game, period. Each frog gains 3% more damage per minion AoE, and this easily ramps to 400% more damage with us picking up AoE in every slot that we can. At the same time, they gain 4% Fizz Pen per strength, 4% multi per dex, and 1% flat crit, meaning you're going to have frogs jumping around with 800% Fizz Pen, with 500% crit multi that are crit capped, absolutely one-shotting everything. To put it into perspective for you, each one of these frogs is basically going to do as much damage as a Wraith Lord Wraith is going to do on its own. So yeah, prepare for the most meta build you'll ever see in season 3, and prepare for some very disgusting numbers. Kitties, I'm excited to be a frog gamer. You're excited to be a frog gamer. Let's discuss everything, and let's all become minion players together. Now, before we go any further, I do also need to mention that there's going to be a full-fledged classic Allie written guide that's going to accompany this build guide. It'll be linked in the description below, and I please implore you to read through it, as this is going to include significantly more information that I could ever pack into this video. And it's going to cover things such as a loot filter, a step-by-step leveling guide, and quite a lot of details on some of the gearing, the mechanics, endgame, and more. And I please implore you that you should go and take a look at it. Now, before we start discussing everything, there is a disclaimer I need to give you. Unfortunately, Primalist leveling in the early game is just bad. While every other class has 1 to 3 really broken skills, Primalist has nothing, and you kind of just have to play with just really undertuned skills. I've done everything I can to make sure that you're going to have the comfiest time possible, but just keep in mind that your first hour or so playing the build is going to be slower than other classes, and it's going to be somewhat miserable. With that said, I am really excited for playing this frog build, and even in my case, where I like the speed run, I'm willing to take these slower hits just because the build looks that cool. Speaking of the builds, everything is going to be based around the cores of the Anorak helmet, which is not going to be something you're going to be able to obtain until you get to endgame. It does mean we have to play a different build until then, and we're going to choose to play the new reworked Summon Raptor with Volcanic Adaptation that turns into Fire-Breathing Dragon. Once you get this at around level 25 or so, your progression should be really smooth, and the nice thing is that it pretty much shares almost every single scalar with the frogs, meaning once you do grab the helmet, swapping over to it should be really easy. In order to get there, we do have a little bit of a convoluted path to follow. First, you're going to use Gathering Storm along with your Summon Wolf to do most of the clearing, and you are going to want to try to find yourself a staff or Gathering Storm, as they'll give you a little bit more damage, and you're going to want to make sure you keep pressing your wolves active for extra DPS. And then at level 4, you're going to get access to Summon Thorn Totem, which you're going to specialize into, and you're going to start making your way over to Venom Tip Thorns. From there, you're going to pick up Pillars of Harrods, and then you're going to go back to picking up as many points into Venom Tip Thorns as you can. Keep in mind, you can put 2 of these totems down, and they shoot thorns in different random directions, so try to put them on top of bosses in the middle of packs to get the most out of them. Just keep pressing Gathering Storm along with your Summon Thorn Totem, and then level 8, you can swap over to Swipe and specialize into it. The key thing to keep in mind about Swipe is that you do not want to pick up Claws of the Bear until you have 2 passive points ready to go to also pick up Primal Resonance at the same time. For Swipe, you're going to want to get yourself a 2-hander, and you're just going to want to look for as much added melee damage as possible, whether it's lightning, fire, cold, it doesn't really matter. At the same time, ailments are really good, so if you can find yourself a 2-hander with Ignite or Poison on hits, that's also going to do really well. After that, you're going to respec out a Summon Thorn Totem, and you're then specialized into Storm Crows for a few levels as well. Storm Crows is going to have an active ability for you to use, and you're going to want to make sure you remove the Summon Wolf off of your hotbar so you actually get your Storm Crow summoned, and this active ability is it's going to do a small AoE that does a stupid amount of damage. For it, you're going to want to pick up Thundering Strike, and then go and pick up Thunderous Blast, and your whole playstyle for a few levels is just going to be using Crow Storm on cooldown, and then pressing Swipe to trigger a free Chrome Storm on every other pack. It should feel pretty good for clearing, and your single target damage is fairly strong, so you should have no issues from this point on. The only difficult part was playing through just Thorn Totem by itself. At level 20, you're going to get your 3rd specialization slot, and that's when you're going to be able to pick up Summon Raptor. You do not want to immediately swap to Summon Raptor, or you're going to miss out on a Storm Crow, which is going to end up doing more damage. Once you do end up getting all the way to Hot Shriek, once you get 7 passive points, you can then swap over to using Summon Raptor, where you get rid of your Storm Crows and just simply keep using swipe in the same way to constantly trigger your Raptor's Rampage, which resets the cooldown of Fire Breath. Now from there, let's discuss how you can scale your dragon friend further to get you to empowered monoliths and to farm your helmet with no issue. The nice thing is that pretty much almost everything we're going to be doing here also just one-to-one applies to the frogs, making the transition from Dragon Raptor to frogs very, very smooth once you do get your hands on the helmet. Realistically, there's going to be 6 main things that you're going to want to make sure you're on the lookout for. First off, on your weapons, you're going to want to look for the 2 hybrid minion spell damage rolls. They can stack together to give your Raptors quite a big boost to DPS. The Fire Breath has a 400% effectiveness of add damage, making these 2 mods invaluable to boosting DPS in the early game. Ideally, later on, you're going to want to find yourself axe bases, and you're going to want to seal one of these spell damage hybrids, which will then allow you to also craft minion damage over time on there, which is going to be another big boost to damage, given we don't have much damage over time scaler, making this very powerful. On top of that, you're also going to want to make sure you look out for cooldown recovery rate on both your belt and your boots, as that will reduce the cooldown of your swipe, allowing you to spam it more, giving you more total dragon breaths. It's also going to reduce the cooldown of Fury Leap, making your mobility feel even comfier. From there, you're going to want to try and get yourself as much strength and dexterity as possible on your rings, amulets, gloves, relics, and pretty much everywhere you can fit it. The Raptors gain % increased damage from both of those stats, but you're going to want to make sure you prioritize strength over dexterity, because on our passive tree, we have the Weathered Elements node, which gives you 1 spell damage per 3 strength that you have, making it superior to dexterity. Lastly, on your necklace and your gloves, you're going to want to look for the hybrid minion AoE minion damage rolls, as not only are those going to be very important for the frog setup, but they're going to make your dragon breath significantly bigger, which should help quite a bit with clear, while at the same time giving you minion damage. For the rest of your gear, all you're going to really want to do is try to just shove as much resistance onto your idols as possible, as we don't really have any idols that we care about in this build, which is then going to free up pretty much every single suffix on your gear to fit in as much health and health regen as possible. While we have quite a lot of damage reduction on our passive tree through things such as Aspect of the Boar, Earth Sign Strength, and Cornered Beast, we don't really have good recovery, but we do have the means to scale regen, so we're going to just abuse that as much as possible to have really good recovery. You should very easily be able to get to 1,000–1,500 health regen or so, and whenever you have the choice between flat health regen and % health regen, you should always pick the flat, as that's going to give you a bigger boost to total regen. That should pretty much be everything you need to be able to scale, and you should have no issues at all. With the only other thing to mention is that you should be on the lookout for a Mantle of the Pale Ox, as it's going to be the best in slot chestplate at all points for both the Raptor setup and the Frog setup. It's going to make you a lot tankier, it's going to give you a lot of extra damage, and it's just going to overall feel like a really massive upgrade. Try to find yourself a plus level to summon Raptor chestplate to put onto your mantle as a 1 LP option, and that should also be a really big boost to your damage. Alright, now that leveling's out of the way, let's discuss our Froggy build itself. Now, you're not going to be able to play the build until you get your hands on Chorus of the Anorok. We do not know exactly where it comes from, but we can just take a guess that it's going to come from killing Rift Beasts, and or you're going to be able to just purchase it directly from the vendor that's associated with the seasonal mechanic. This is something I'm going to make a follow-up video on day 2 or day 3 that's going to discuss actually farming the helmet in more detail, but until then, it's safe to assume that you just want to do every single Rift Beast encounter you come across until you do find it. Once you do get it, the build is just plug and play, and you can just slap it on, open up the build planner for the frog build itself, and then just swap your passive points and skills around and be off to the races. In terms of how the build scales, it's going to be very simplistic. The frogs gain physical pen from you stacking strength, from multi from dexterity, and critical strike chance from attunement. We are ideally going to want to get to about 30 attunement or so, because that, along with either Battle Cry from Warcry itself, or Lead the Pack from Summon Frenzy Totem, is going to give 200 to 250% increased crit chance, which will turn their 35% flat crits with 30 attunement up to 100%, completely crit capping them. The other thing that you're going to have to immediately look for, and you're going to want to do everything you can to fit this ASAP, is going to be the hybrid increased AoE for minion skills and minion damage roll that can be found on amulets and gloves, as the frogs themselves have a innate 3% more damage per 1% minion AoE that you have. This is by far the most valuable stat in the early game, so please try to immediately shatter some items with it and to put it on your items. The rest of your gear is simply just going to be used to get yourself as much res as you can, along with health and health regen. Because we don't really need any specific idols in the build, you can just pretty much shove all of your resistances on there, which opens up your suffixes for a lot of health regen. The only other thing to mention about affixes outside of unique gear is that we are going to want to shatter a pair of Last Bear Fury's gloves, and we're going to want to put a tier 1 suffix on our gloves, which are then going to seal, as we don't care to up this at all, and we're simply just putting on on a tier 1 roll for the 1% increased health regen per point of strength, which will give you quite a lot of extra comfort. For the unique items you're going to want to look out for, the main one is going to be finding a Mantle the Pale Ox, which is going to give you quite a lot of extra defenses. This item is just honestly downright broken and amazing, and it's just an amazing defensive layer. Given if the frogs end up dying to it, they just immediately respawn. For your weapons, you're going to want to find yourself an Eric's Bones, as we do not have any other good way of giving them armor shred, so we're going to be sticking with this for quite a while, along with a Null's Tooth in your offhand, as there aren't really any other good weapons for us to use. Lastly, the only other unique that you're going to really want to look for is going to be the new Land Before, which is a idol that's going to give you up to 4 additional maximum companions. The nice thing is that we don't care about the downside here at all, as we're only using Summon Wolf, and we do want to leave all of our companion slots open anyways, so the frogs can actually be summoned. This will almost double your DPS on its own, and again, unfortunately, we don't really know where this is going to come from, but I feel like it's safe to assume that's just going to come from dealing with Rift Beast. As for the gameplay of the builds, you're honestly going to have a pretty good time with it, given it's going to be super low APM. Your frogs have a built-in leap, and the tooltip on it basically makes it out to be that they will leap at anything within half a screen of you, and given it's a pretty low cooldown, they should have a pretty good time clearing the whole screen, given they also have an AoE version of their auto attack. As for what you personally are going to have to do, other than just watching the frogs go ribbit, is to simply just use Fury Leap on cooldown to get around faster, and whenever you encounter a boss, you're going to want to put down a Frenzy Totem, which will then give your frogs Frenzy and give them quite a lot of extra damage, as well as pressing Warcry, which will put another totem down, which will just give them more crit chance, and it'll cleanse the ailments and give you some immunity, followed up by just using Swipe on cooldown, which will just trigger your Wolf's Howl, further buffing your frogs from there. The gear for this build can be pushed quite a lot further than what we discussed here, but I want to keep the scope of the video and the initial build guide to a early game set of gear that's very reasonable for people to get within the first few days, and then we'll talk about further upgrades from there. All this and more is going to be covered in the update videos I plan to do on day 2, 3, 4, and so on, as we discover the builds and discover any sort of new tech about it, so do be sure to be on the lookout for them. The last thing we want to quickly go over is just going to be what you're going to do with your blessings and what is the plan with our idols. Obviously, we're going to want to go grab ourselves Land Before, but for the rest of the slots, you can honestly do whatever you want to. You can shove all of your resistances on here, which then allows you to run a lot more health regen rolls with the suffixes on your gear, but ideally, you're going to want to find a good balance to then be able to fit in as many minor Weaver idols as possible with ward retention and ward per second, along with health and health regen as the 2 hybrid mods. The ward retention roll is not going to really do much until you get a Vessel of Strife, but it's nice to be on the lookout for these, given we're going to want about 15 of them. For blessings, there really isn't much to say here, other than get the Void Resistance 1 in Black Sun, get the All-Res roll in Arena of Dragons, and Spirits of Fire and Age of Winter. Grab both of the Armor Blessings, which will give you a significant boost to your overall EHP. And then lastly, in Ending the Storm, grab the Health Regen Blessing, as this will give you quite a lot of extra regen, which is going to feel very comfy, especially as we push into Empowered Monoliths. That's pretty much all we have to talk about when it comes to frogs. I am personally looking forward to playing this build quite a bit, and I'm super excited to rush to get the helmet and just see how the frogs end up doing. And from everything we've crafted about this build, I feel like these frogs are going to be pretty damn strong on launch. If you're looking to play the froggy build yourself, I hope you have a wonderful time with it, and I'm going to be streaming this build and all of my progression live on Twitch, so do feel free to come by and either level along with me or ask any of your questions. At the same time, you're more than free to drop our Discord and become a part of our community and hang out with other kitties, whether it's on Discord or on Twitch. If you have any further questions, feel free to leave a comment in the comments below, and I'd be more than happy to help you as soon as I can. And I hope you kitties have a wonderful league launch. I hope you have fun, and I'll see you all in the next video.